Hello, friends. Today you'll witness how a single family dinner exposes the quiet erasure of a child's worth. This is the story of Maya, 8 years old, lost in the shadow of her brother's spotlight. Parents celebrate victories they see, but hers vanish unheard. Behind this suburban normalcy hides a terror of being invisible, the kind no one admits. Watch closely. The camera pans across a faded school auditorium, grainy like old film stock, capturing 8-year-old Maya clutching a ribbon for second place in the science fair. Her small hands tremble as she scans the sparse crowd, parents milling, but hers linger at the back, eyes elsewhere. She steps forward, voice piping. "I built a volcano that erupts with baking soda." A polite clap echoes, then fades. Cut to Alex, 10 and beaming, on stage moments later. First prize in debate, his words sharp and confident. Lena rushes up, enveloping him in hugs. Daniel's stoic nod breaking into rare pride. "That's my boy," Lena whispers, loud enough for Maya to hear from the wings. Maya's ribbon slips into her pocket, unseen. As the memory lingers, it shifts to the familiar rhythm of home life. Flash to home, the 2-story suburban house with its warm lamplight masking shadows. Dinner table, plates clink under hushed conversation. Maya, fork midway to mouth, shares haltingly, "My project got second. It's about volcanoes, like real ones in Hawaii." Silence stretches. Alex launches into his win. "I argued against the whole class." Laughter erupts. Lena's hand squeezes his shoulder. Daniel grunts approval. Maya's words dissolve into the steam rising from mashed potatoes. She stares at her plate, the food blurring, a knot tightening in her chest. Closed off, retreating inward where no one can reach. The evening continues with quiet reflections. Upstairs hallway, the family photo wall looms like a shrine. Trophies gleam beside frames. Alex's soccer medals, debate plaques dominating the center. Maya's lone drawing, pinned crookedly at the edge, curls at the corners, overlooked. She pauses there after dinner, fingers tracing the glass over a group shot. Everyone's smiling, but her eyes in the photo seem distant, already fading into the background. The wall mocks her. Achievements stacked like trophies, love doled out in spotlights she never catches. In the solitude of her space, deeper thoughts emerge. In her room, alone, Maya presses her face to the window, watching the streetlights flicker. The silence inside her swells, not empty but heavy, pressing against her ribs. Why speak when it vanishes? Yet something stirs, a spark, hot and insistent, demanding air. She deserves the applause, the hug, the gaze. But voicing it. How to break free without shattering everything? The question hangs, unanswered, as the montage fades to present-day Maya, microphone in hand, rehearsing words long buried. Now, in the present, she prepares deliberately. Maya sat alone in the dim glow of her laptop screen. The suburban bedroom a cocoon of faded posters and stacked notebooks. The 2-story house creaked faintly upstairs, echoes of her family's routine dinner prep filtering through the walls. Like always, the clink of plates masking deeper silences. She adjusted the tripod, centering the empty microphone on the desk, its black foam mouth gaping silently, waiting. Her internal struggle intensifies in the quiet room. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, the half-written script glaring back. "I've spent years feeling like a shadow in my own home." Doubt coiled in her chest, tight as the resentment she'd swallowed since childhood. What if saying it aloud shattered everything? The family photo wall across the room mocked her. Alex's debate trophies front and center, her own art awards tucked in the corner, gathering dust. Speaking this truth meant losing control, inviting the chaos she'd always tiptoed around. Her heart raced. She could still bail, delete the file, slip back into the quiet contributor who fixed the leaks and cooked the meals without a word. Silence had kept the peace, hadn't it? But tonight, it felt like a noose. She tests her voice tentatively. She leaned into the mic, voice barely above a whisper. My name is Maya Alvarez, and for too long, I've been invisible. The words hung, amplified only by the room's hush. No, too raw. She hit delete, rewriting. Growing up, love felt like a prize you earned. Alex got the cheers, I got the, that's nice. Pause. Her throat tightened. How do you pin down the ache of dinners where her stories dissolved mid-sentence? Lena's eyes lighting up only for Alex's latest win. The fear surged. What if they dismissed her as dramatic, the overreacting one? Control slipping, like sand through fingers. She glanced at the empty mic, its void staring back, a stand-in for the listeners she both craved and dreaded. Witnesses. Finally, resolve begins to build. Breath steadying, she tried again, louder this time. I was the one who faded, not because I wasn't trying, but because trying wasn't enough. The doubt ebbed, replaced by a flicker of resolve. She mattered. Her pain wasn't a burden to bury. It was a story demanding air. Rewriting furiously, she added, Love doesn't arrive unasked. It needs voices to call it out. The mic loomed, no longer empty in her mind. It promised echoes beyond this room, beyond the family's unspoken rules. But the question lingered, sharp as the cursor's blink. How do you shape words around wounds that have no edges? Finally, she commits. She pressed record, the red light blinking to life. Let's start over. Determination settled in her bones, fragile but firm. The house's murmurs faded. For once, her silence cracked open. Later that night, deeper introspection unfolds. The dim glow of her bedside lamp cast long shadows across the cluttered desk in Maya's upstairs bedroom. The one room in the Alvarez house that felt like a sanctuary. Though even here, the walls whispered echoes of downstairs laughter she was never quite part of. Her fingers trembled as they gripped the worn leather cover of the journal, its pages frayed from years of secrets scribbled in haste. She flipped it open, the spine cracking like a reluctant confession, and stared at the blank line waiting beneath the date. The weight of her self-deception surfaces. Anxiety coiled in her chest, a familiar serpent twisting tighter with every breath. If I just keep giving more, she wrote, the pen digging into the paper as if to anchor the lie she'd fed herself since childhood. Help with the dishes after Alex's big game. Tutor him through exams I aced first. Smile through the family toasts that skipped her name. If I pour myself out like that, surely the love will come. Love. Mom's hugs for his scholarships, Dad's rare nods for her straight A's that somehow never measured up. It has to balance eventually. The words blurred as hot tears pricked her eyes, her hand pausing mid-sentence. The room seemed to shrink, the air thick with the weight of unspoken dinners where she'd faded into the wallpaper, her contributions tallied like invisible debts. A turning point emerges in her writing. But tonight, the inner voice she'd silenced for so long refused to stay buried. It rose like a tide, crashing against the facade. It's a lie. She scrawled next, the letters jagged now, ink smudging under her thumb. All these years, I've been the shadow performer, chasing scraps of affection by erasing myself. What if I stop? What if they see the real me? Not the helper, not the quiet one, and turn away. Her heart hammered, the anxiety peaking in a wave that left her gasping, slumped over the desk. The journal lay open like a mirror, reflecting the victim she'd become. Resilient on the surface, hollowed out beneath, always one more sacrifice from being whole. Clarity begins to dawn. Slowly, the storm ebbed. She straightened, wiping her face, and added in steadier script, "The fear of rejection is real. But this silence, it's killing me. I deserve to be seen, not earned." The entry sealed it, a vow etched in black and white, proof for the conversation she could no longer avoid. As she closed the journal, tucking it under her pillow like a talisman, a quiet acknowledgement bloomed amid the ache. Her pain was valid, her voice overdue. Yet in the lingering quiet, one question hung unresolved. Where did selfless care end and self-erasure begin? Seeking guidance, she turns to therapy. The therapy room felt like a suspended breath, walls soft beige, a single window filtering afternoon light into hazy stripes across the worn leather couch. Maya sat hunched, fingers twisting the hem of her sweater, her dark hair falling like a curtain over eyes that darted to the floor. Leah, across from her in a simple armchair, leaned forward slightly, her presence steady, unhurried. A lighthouse in the fog of Maya's doubt. "Tell me about the silence, Maya," Leah said, her voice gentle but insistent, like a hand extended over an abyss. Not what happened, but how it felt, the weight of it. Maya's internal barriers strained. Maya's throat tightened. She wanted to bolt, to swallow the words before they made her sound like the dramatic one, the complainer who'd shatter everything. What if naming it made her the villain? What if her family saw her resentment as overreaction, proof she was too much, too needy? But the doubt coiled in her chest, hot and familiar, pushing against the bars she'd built around it for years. "It's like being erased," she whispered finally, voice cracking on the edge. At dinners, Alex would talk about his latest award, and Mom's eyes would light up like he was the sun. I'd sit there, passing the potatoes, invisible. Not angry at first, just hollow. Like if I spoke up, I'd prove I wasn't worth the light. Leah nodded, no judgment in her gaze, only quiet invitation. She reached for the notebook on the side table, the one Maya had clutched like a shield when she walked in, its pages filled with scribbled half-truths from lonely nights. Leah held it now, not prying open, but resting it in her lap, fingers tracing the cover's frayed edge. "This is your story starting to form," she said. "Write it here for the podcast. Turn that hollow into words. What does the erasure feel like in your body?" Maya hesitated, the symbol of her hidden world now in another's hands, vulnerable yet shared. Doubt flickered. Would this make her lose control, expose the raw underbelly? But as Leah waited, patient, the fear cracked. "It burns," Maya said, the words tumbling out, gaining shape. "In my chest, like resentment I never asked for. They loved him for what he did, the grades, the wins. Me? I was the helper, the fixer, always giving so they'd notice. But silence was my armor. Now, it feels like betrayal, my own for staying quiet." Leah's eyes met hers, warm acknowledgement blooming. "That's the name it deserves, Maya. Resentment isn't weakness, it's the voice you've earned. And translating it, that's how we make pain a story, one that invites them in, not pushes them away." Maya exhaled, a tentative release, the doubt easing into something firmer. Recognition. Her hand reached for the pen Leah offered, the diary now a bridge. But in the quiet that followed, the question lingered unspoken, heavy in the air. How do you weave silence into language without unraveling everything? Reflecting further, she revisits the past. The grainy footage flickers on Maya's laptop screen, pulled from the family archive she's been avoiding for years. It's a home video from the regional science fair, time-stamped 12 years ago. The camera shakes slightly, her father's unsteady hand behind the lens, as the auditorium buzzes with teenage chatter. Maya's heart quickens in the present, a knot of anxiety twisting in her chest. She pauses the video, but the images linger. Her younger self, 12 years old, standing rigid in a starched blouse, clutching a participation ribbon like it's a consolation prize from a war she didn't know she was fighting. She hits play again. The scene unfolds. Alex, her brother, 14 and already towering with that easy confidence, strides onto the stage first. The moderator announces his project, something about renewable energy models that earned him first place. The crowd claps, but it's the family's reaction that stabs her. Mom's face lights up. Lena's eyes crinkling with that rare, unguarded pride as she whispers to Dad, "Our boy's a genius." Daniel nods, stoic as ever. But his hand squeezes Alex's shoulder later, a silent stamp of approval. The camera pans to Alex, accepting the trophy, beaming while the family clusters around him in the lobby afterward, laughter bubbling like champagne. And Maya? She's there, in the frame's edge, her own project, a simple ecosystem model that took her weeks of late nights. Barely acknowledged. Second runner-up, a polite handshake from the judge, and that's it. No footage of her presentation, no close-up of her forced smile as she slips the ribbon into her pocket. The video jumps to dinner that night. The table laden with takeout pizza, Alex at the center, recounting his win, blow by blow. "It was the solar panel integration," he says, and Mom hangs on every word, plating extra slices for him. Dad grunts approval. "That's my son, building the future." Maya's voice, small and tentative, tries to interject once. "My diorama had real soil samples." But it trails off, drowned in the chatter. The camera catches her face for a split second, eyes down, fork pushing peas around her plate, before panning away. In the quiet of her bedroom now, the screen goes dark, but the anxiety blooms into something sharper. A confirmed ache that hollows her out. She remembers the walk home, the silence in the car thicker than fog, her loss not even worth a question. Why did his shine erase hers? The family's gaze, always selective, had skipped right over her defeat, leaving her to swallow the hurt alone. It wasn't jealousy, not really. Just the slow erosion of worth. Her efforts dissolving into invisibility. She closes the laptop, the echo of that unspoken question hanging in the air. Why does one victory demand silence for the other, turning support into a shadow? Gathering courage, she confronts her brother. The late afternoon light filtered through the blinds of the Alvarez living room, casting slatted shadows across the coffee table cluttered with faded family albums. Maya sat on the edge of the couch, her fingers twisting the hem of her sweater, heart pounding like a muffled drum. Alex lounged opposite, scrolling his phone, oblivious until she cleared her throat, sharp, deliberate. "Alex, I need you to listen. Really listen." Her voice cracked on the edge of doubt, the words she'd rehearsed in the mirror now heavy in the air. She reached into her bag and pulled out a crumpled envelope, sliding out a cracked glass slide from their old school presentation. It was from the science fair, the one where her model volcano had erupted too soon, fizzing into nothing while his robot whirred to victory. The slide's surface spiderwebbed, a relic she'd found in the attic, its fracture mirroring the ache she'd buried for years. He looked up, brow furrowing. "Maya, what's this about?" "We've got that family barbecue tomorrow. Mom's already stressed." "It's about us. About how I was always the shadow in your spotlight." Doubt clawed at her throat. What if he brushed it off, like Dad always did? You got the cheers, the hugs, the I'm so proud every time. And me? I was there, pouring my everything into projects like this stupid slide. But no one saw when it broke. I was lonely, Alex. Invisible. Even to you. Alex set his phone down, eyes widening as he took the slide, turning it in the light. The crack caught the sun, splintering into tiny rainbows. He hesitated, his usual easy smile faltering. I didn't know it hit you like that. I mean, yeah, they pushed me hard. Be the example, Alex. Make us proud. It felt like a weight, not a win. Late nights studying just to keep up, terrified I'd let everyone down if I slipped. His voice softened, the words tumbling out like a confession long held back. No deflection, no pivot to his latest promotion, just raw admission. Maya's breath hitched, the doubt easing into a tentative relief, warm and unfamiliar. For the first time, his gaze held hers, not as the golden child, but as a brother seeing the wound beneath. It wasn't just pressure for you, she whispered. It erased me. He nodded slowly, the slide still in his palm. I'm sorry. I was so caught up in performing. I never saw you fading. A pause, heavy with possibility. Could he step out of that mirror? Reflect her pain instead of expectations? The question hung unspoken as he reached across the table, his hand brushing hers. The first bridge over years of silence. Building on this, she extends the invitation to her parents. The living room hummed with the low buzz of the recorder, its microphone perched like a sentinel on the coffee table amid scattered family photos. Alex's trophies gleaming, Maya's faded ribbons tucked in the shadows. Maya sat cross-legged on the worn rug, her heart a fragile drumbeat of hope. She had rehearsed this, the words that would pull her parents into her world, not as spectators, but as participants. Mom, Dad, she said, voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. Come to the podcast recording tomorrow. Hear it from me, not echoes in my journal. Please. Lena hovered by the doorway, twisting her apron like a lifeline, her eyes darting to the photo wall where Alex's smile dominated. Maya, sweetheart, it's not that we didn't love you. Alex he needed me more back then. The way he shone, it was like he carried us all. Her words spilled out nervous, defensive, a shield against the raw plea in Maya's gaze. Hope flickered in Maya's chest. Maybe this was the crack, the invitation they'd finally accept. But Daniel leaned against the mantel, arms crossed, his stoic face cracking into a rational mask. This is about fairness, isn't it? We provided for both of you equally, school, food, a roof. Achievements were the measure because life is. You can't rewrite merit as favoritism. His deflection sliced the air, turning her vulnerability into a debate, emotions dismissed like faulty logic. Maya's hope curdled into shock, a cold wave crashing over her. She gripped the microphone cord, feeling its cool weight, a conduit for the voice she'd long silenced. It's not about merit, Dad. It's about seeing me. The room thickened. Parents rooted in place, their defenses up, but feet unmoving. Would they stay for the echo of her truth, or let the mic capture only absence? The family gathers for deeper confrontation. The round table in Leah's office gleamed under the soft lamplight, its polished surface a silent invitation to equality that the Alvarez family had long ignored. Maya sat rigid, her fingers tracing the wood's grain, the weight of rivalry pressing like an uninvited guest. Across from her, Alex shifted uncomfortably, his eyes flicking between his parents. Lena clutched a tissue, her knuckles white, while Daniel leaned back, arms crossed, his stoic facade cracking at the edges. Leah's voice cut through the hush, steady as a metronome. Maya, you've carried this sense of competition for years. Speak it now. What does it feel like? Maya's throat tightened, tension coiling in her chest like a spring. It's like every time Alex won, I vanished. His trophies on the wall, your smiles at dinner, it wasn't just pride in him. It was erasure for me. I competed for scraps of you and lost every time. Her words hung heavy, the air thickening with the family's unspoken defenses. Lena's eyes welled, but she straightened, voice trembling. We didn't mean to. Alex was so driven, so fragile under it all. I was terrified of losing him. To the world, to his own doubts. Pouring everything into him. It felt like holding on. Justification laced her tone, a reflex to shield the past. But Maya's gaze bored in, unyielding. Daniel cleared his throat, his broad shoulders slumping. Achievement was stability, Maya. I thought if you both succeeded, we'd all be safe. Love. I figured it showed in the providing, the pushing, but equating wins with worth. That was my mistake. His admission landed like a stone in still water, ripples of surprise crossing Alex's face. Yet the words skirted too close to excuse, and Maya's jaw set. No, she snapped, voice rising, the table's curves suddenly feeling like a trap, pulling them all into one another's orbits. That's still dodging it. I demand you see my pain, not as a side effect, but as real. I have a right to it, to scream it into this microphone later, to make it heard. Tension peaked, breaths shallow, the room pulsing with the fear that this circle might shatter before it bound them. Leah nodded gently. And can you hear her fear, Lena? Daniel? The one she's voicing now? Lena reached across the table, her hand hovering near Maya's. I do. Losing Alex scared me blind, but I lost you in the process. I'm sorry. For choosing fear over fairness. The words broke, raw and unfiltered. No more hiding behind old rationales. Daniel uncrossed his arms, leaning forward, the table's round edge framing his reluctant nod. You're right. Achievements weren't love. They were my walls. I see you now, Maya. All of you. Alex exhaled, his hand finding Maya's under the table. A tentative bridge. Relief seeped in, slow as dawn, softening the edges of their stares. The rivalry's sharp ache dulled, not gone, but shared. Yet in the quiet that followed, the question lingered unspoken. Could they truly hear the terror of losing their favorite, without it echoing Maya's own invisibility forever? Following the session, Maya seeks alliance with Alex. The dim light of the living room cast long shadows across the family photo wall, where Alex's trophies still gleamed brighter than Maya's faded ribbons. Maya sat on the edge of the worn couch, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, the weight of the day's therapy session pressing on her like an invisible fog. Exhaustion etched lines around her eyes. Hours of unearthed memories had left her voice raw, her body heavy. Across from her, Alex fidgeted with the podcast microphone on the coffee table, its cord snaking like a lifeline between them. He avoided her gaze, his fingers tracing the mic's grill, as if it held answers he wasn't ready to voice. I can't just erase it, Alex, Maya said, her words deliberate, pushing through the fatigue that made her shoulders slump. She leaned forward, not accusing, but insistent, her eyes locking onto his. Forgiveness isn't forgetting the way Mom lit up for your every win, or how Dad's silence swallowed my tries whole. It's releasing, letting go of the resentment so it doesn't chain me anymore. But that means you see it too, the favoritism that made me a ghost in my own home. Alex's jaw tightened, his internal tug-of-war playing out in the flicker of his expression. He glanced toward the kitchen doorway, where their parents' muffled voices drifted like echoes of old defenses. Protect them, a voice whispered in his head. The boat they've all rocked too long. Or stand with her. His hand hovered over the microphone, as if touching it might commit him. Maya, I get it. I do. But if I call it out, what if it blows everything up? They've always seen me as the steady one. What if admitting this makes me the villain too? She reached across the table, her fingers brushing the mic's cool metal, drawing his eyes to it. Then we face it together. Not to punish, but to fix. I'm done being invisible. This. She nodded at the microphone. It's my voice now. Ours if you join me. He exhaled sharply, the tiredness in his posture mirroring hers. But something shifted, a crack in the hesitation. Slowly, he gripped the mic, pulling it closer. Okay, you're right. No more shadows. I'll fight it with you. Tell them how the pressure crushed us both. Starting now. Relief washed over Maya like a quiet tide, easing the knot in her chest. She smiled faintly, the exhaustion lifting just enough to let hope flicker. As Alex plugged in the microphone, the hum of readiness filled the room, their alliance solidifying in the space between. But in the air lingered the unspoken. Could this release truly empower, or would it demand more surrender than strength? The story culminates at the family dinner. The dining room light flickered softly, casting long shadows across the polished oak table where plates of half-eaten roast chicken sat cooling. Maya hesitated at the threshold, her fingers tightening around the podcast microphone. Its sleek, black form no longer a solitary prop, but a deliberate placement on the empty chair that had once marked her absence. The family was already seated. Alex to her left, his posture rigid with the weight of their recent pact. Lena across from him, twisting a napkin into knots. Daniel at the head, fork paused mid-air, eyes fixed on the steam rising from his untouched food. She slid into her seat, the microphone cable snaking across the tablecloth like a vein pulsing with unspoken history. Let's do this, Maya said, her voice steady but laced with the tremor of old silences threatening to pull her under. The air thickened, the familiar hush of dinners past, clawing back. Lena's averted gaze, Daniel's gruff clearing of throat, Alex shifting as if ready to deflect. It was the pull of habit, that gravitational force urging them to nod politely, chew in rhythm, let the words die unspoken. Maya's chest tightened. Would the new ritual shatter under this weight, or hold? She flicked the record button, the red light blooming like a hesitant heartbeat. Actions took over. She leaned forward, drawing the mic close, while Alex reached for her hand under the table, a quiet anchor. Lena set down her napkin, forcing her eyes to meet Maya's. No evasion this time. Daniel pushed his plate aside, palms flat on the wood, committing to the listen they owed. I've carried this invisibility too long, Maya began, her words cutting through the tension like a blade testing fragile ice. But in the quiet that followed, a whisper lingered. Were these rituals enough to enshrine her voice as law, or just a pause before the old gravity returned?